and welcome to the NewsX Sunday Guardian Roundtable. Well, it's been 1 year ever since the Modi government took that move, which is, of course, to abrogate the Article 370, 35A, and also to divide the state of Jammu, Kashmir, Ladakh into union territories. So to joining me on this discussion, what has been the impact on the ground? Has it been as much of a success as we are told it is? Or are the people in the valley still very upset as to what has happened? We do know that some people, there's been a group that has moved the Supreme Court against this. The case is before a constitution bench. And one of the petitioners, in fact, is here with me on the show. Joining me on the show is Air Vice Marshal Kapil Kak. He is an expert on Kashmir defense and national security. He's also born and spent his childhood in Kashmir. He's an expert on Kashmir as well. He's one of those who's moved the Supreme Court against the government's decision. I have Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia. He's the director at the Center for Warfare Studies, a former DGMO and one with considerable experience on ground in the valley also. Arjuman Hussain Talib, he's a development economist and an author based in Srinagar, and he's also written a biography of Omar Abdullah. And soon we'll be joined by Abhinav Pandya, who's a counter-terrorism expert. Well, Air Vice Marshal Kak, I'll begin with you. It's been 1 year, and what has the impact been, and also where is the case that you moved in the Supreme Court for? Where is it now?
If I could submit before you as the panelists that the objectives that were apparently put forth in Parliament on 5th of August, the ideological underpinning of this move by virtue of the DNA, that ideological DNA that undergirds the ruling dispensation. I will not comment on that.
Yeah.
But the issue of ending militancy, I'm sorry, militancy hasn't ended. I can give Ministry of Home Affairs own data to say it has increased.
Okay.
Second, development because of two factors. One is the lockdown for the first 6 months, and then, of course, the unfortunate as a result of COVID-19. So the Kashmiris have gone through lockdown within lockdown, which the rest of India hasn't gone through. The faith the Kashmiris had in the Indian political leadership and the judiciary has got shattered. On that, there is no doubt. To the credit of the ruling central government, I would say a large number of people who were arrested in the fear that there would be widespread outcry in Kashmir resulting from the imposition of the orders on 5th of August. Many have been released, but there are many, many more, including a former chief minister with whom the current dispensation had a coalition government in KK. She's still behind bars under a Public Safety Act. So all I can say is that overwhelming sentiments as a result of my few visits during this last 1 year, along with a former Union Minister for External Affairs and Finance, and some other very, very senior functionaries, all in the former capacity. We met hundreds of people in the two visits we were there. What is the impression I gather? Firstly, a shock, a trauma, a sense of humiliation. I would say, I would take this forward and say there is simmering anger, there is a sense of humiliation and hopelessness. Now, this is a deadly combination for a people, and this is not, we're not talking about 100 people or 1,000 people. They're talking about 7 million people. They feel a sense of humiliation and they feel a sense of hopelessness. The mainstream politics that one has in all parts of India has died in Kashmir. The death took place on 5th of August. So, I mean, I'm sorry if I sound pessimistic, but to all my panelists are very dear friends, I would like to present the ground zero perspective. And this is based on, as I said, a very wide sampling. And it's not my impression sitting in my home office, desk office in my home, but as a result of very deep-rooted research on the ground. Now, as far as the impact has been concerned, I may say that Firstly, Kashmiris, more than anybody else, have shown great maturity. The government expected there would be widespread protests in the streets of Kashmir. That didn't happen. They not only went along with the lockdown imposed by the center, but imposed their own lockdown on themselves. I call it self-imprisonment for many, many months. And the economy, I don't have to mention to this group of panelists, and least of all to you, Priya, the economy, tourism, handicrafts, horticulture, everything is in tatters. Yes, I have to say at the same time, 6 months because of the COVID, but 6 months before that, because of this decision to impose Article 370 and its various elements.
Okay. Let me get this quickly.
I would like to end with this one point, that the Kashmiris' foremost fear, which has now been proven, is demographic change. And the facts that are being sought to be changed on the ground, I think everyone here knows. I don't have to repeat them, but if you wish, I could elaborate on it.
No, I'll get the others in also, then we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
General Bhatia, he's raised a lot of concerns that, there is, all is not well on the ground as is being told to us. Would you agree with this, or do you say this is still part of the transition?
With due respect to Air Marshal Kak, and he has given the ground zero as per his inputs, I have a slightly different take on it. You look at one thing in Kashmir, there is a silent majority, which is basically they are the sufferers actually of terrorism. And the terrorism has stymied the growth of Kashmir, the economic development of Kashmir, the education in Kashmir, the employment opportunities in Kashmir, which is the well-being of our people out there, which is very extremely important. Just to give a few figures though, of the post-August 19 and pre that, let me also say that pre-August 19, the incident, there are 105 incidents in 2019 of violent incidents, in which there have been a total of 22 civilians who were killed, 74 security forces were martyred, and 131 terrorists were eliminated or neutralized, and the total of 231. But post August 5th August, there were only 30 incidents in which 20 civilians lost their lives, 4 security forces were martyred, 26 terrorists were neutralized, and the total 52. So you just look at the levels. In 2020, there were 17 civilians who lost their lives, 34 soldiers have been martyred, and 154 terrorists have been neutralized. So if you look at these figures, what does it tell us? It tells us that the violence levels I'm talking about right now. It tells us the situation is improving as far as violence levels are concerned. Hats off to the Kashmir. There's no doubt. I agree with Marshal Kak that the Kashmiri people have shown a great resilience, maturity, and they have been the sufferers. So I'm with them. I empathize with the Kashmiri people. They are unnecessary targets of a Pakistani proxy war, and they're not getting anywhere. To say that terrorism has ended, no, I agree with you. It is not ended, definitely. But there is a step forward. The positions have changed, the narrative has changed, and we have to understand that the terrorism in Kashmir is sponsored by Pakistan, it is supported by Pakistan. The weapons come from there, everything comes from there. And if you look at the ceasefire violations, they have exponentially, there's exponential growth in that. Why? Because the infiltration has to take place under the cover of fire. The line of control has got an excellent counter-infiltration grid, but under the cover of fire, that grid cannot stand scrutiny. And in 2018, there were 1629 cases of ceasefire violations, where in 2019, there were 3,168 cases of mostly after 5th August. As also in this year, 2020, there have been nearly 2,400 cases of ceasefire violations. So what does that imply? And all these ceasefire violations, let me tell you here, they've been north and south of Pir Panjal. Not a single ceasefire violation has taken place east of Zojila, which is another 200 kilometers of the line of control. So it is an indicator that the ceasefire violations are supporting infiltration from Pakistani side. And if that is happening, I suppose Pakistan is in a quandary, the decision dilemma out there. They have to maintain the violence levels out there, which is not happening. As far as the economy is concerned, I'm totally in agreement with the tourism is nearly over. Post 5th of August, there was lockdown, and a lockdown, and within a lockdown, yes, there have been 36,000 tourists in 2019, whereas the average in 2017 was about 5 lakhs, 2020 again is a bad year. So we're looking at a big future. So we'll have to support that, and to support what the government has done, has given a budget of 1.01 lakh crores for the J&K Union Territory alone, whereas the budget for Jammu and Kashmir as a state earlier was around 70,000 crores. But I hope it gets utilized properly. That optimal utilization is the challenge, actually. If we can do that, I think we'll see a better year.
So, Arjun, when you heard General Bhatia, they say, he's struck a somewhat of a balance. You heard both the voices, but you are really the man over there on the ground. So tell us, what is it like?
Yeah, thank you very much, Priya, first of all, to invite me for this panel discussion. I think first and foremost, it's extremely important for us to voice what the silent majority, the vast majority of Jammu and Kashmir feel about this decision, which was taken on August 5, 2019, in a completely unilateral manner. The fact of the matter is that a vast majority of the population of one state, and not the Kashmir Valley alone, see this decision as constitutionally, legally, ethically untenable, unjustifiable, unacceptable, and period. So that's something that, first of all, we need to recognize what is the feeling and the sentiment of the masses of Jammu and Kashmir about this. Now then, coming about, talking about the kind of arguments that were rightly mentioned earlier in support of this step. Development, for example, we were being told that there was a development deficit in Jammu and Kashmir. That's why this decision is being taken. We were being told that this decision is designed to accelerate economic development in Jammu and Kashmir. But let us look at what has been happening on the ground. You can't think of a development model, of an economic development model, in an environment which promotes, unilateral and also unitary systems of governance. The foundations of Jammu and Kashmir state are based on multiculturalism, multi-ethnicism. It's a place which, values its diversity. But look at the governance model, the current administrative system. Is it diverse? No, it's not diverse. Does it reflect the true ethnic, religious, and cultural diversity of Jammu and Kashmir? No, it does not. Then let's talk about the kind of things that have been happening. Economic development, fundamental, connectivity, internet connectivity, basic infrastructure. Jammu and Kashmir, for about now complete 1 year, is using 2G internet facility. Look at the state of our education. Look at the psychological state of the children of Jammu and Kashmir, the school-going children. Look at the status of the IT industry, the startups, the e-commerce, businesses, the general businesses, the agricultural sector. Everything, as Kapil Kalchi rightly said, is in tatters. Now, what kind of economic development we are trying to introduce? The government tried to, rope in industrialists and prospective investors to invest in Jammu and Kashmir. But how is it happening? Can you believe this, that the basic mineral mining rights of very minor minerals like sand and other things, they have been snatched from the common people, the local people of the areas who used to traditionally...
When did this happen?
It's there, there have been laws, and some of the mining rights have already been given to people from outside Jammu and Kashmir.
So post 370 or before 370 removal?
It's post 370. It's post 370. Now, can you imagine a situation where you have a river or you have a stretch of land in Delhi, and suddenly you ask the people living there for centuries, the local people, the tribals or the indigenous people living over there, you tell them overnight that you don't have rights over these basic resources, and we are getting people from other countries, from Dubai, from China, or
but
from...
it's not other countries, it's the rest of the country, no?
Even if you do that in Delhi, for example, from Gujarat, from Tamil Nadu, from Kerala, and you dispossess indigenous local people from their basic right to their basic resources, what would be the sentiment like? So these are the issues that we need to understand. What has been said and what's happening in the ground has a
very different.
basic contradiction. The contradiction is written all over it.
Okay, come back to you. Admiral Kak, before, when I interrupted you, you were talking about the change in the demography. I think the demographic change also you were worried about. Care to speak a bit more on that one?
I wasn't sure you're addressing me. First, I'll come to the demographic part in a moment, but I want to mention here that I agree with what my dear friend Vinod Bhatia is saying. Although he disagreed with me, but I agree. But I want to caveat this agreement with facts which have come out from Ministry of Home Affairs. Ministry of Home Affairs it addresses the point Arjuman has raised in a conceptual way. The Ministry of Home Affairs data says that until 15th of July, 136 terrorists were killed, or militants, out of whom 121 were local Kashmiris. Mark this figure, 136 out of whom 121 were local. Okay. The same Ministry of Home Affairs for the previous period talks about, I'm talking about Jan to July 15, July 15, say that, and I have this figure, 136 out of whom 121 were Kashmiris. So for the last 2 years, previous 6 months and the 6 months after August, we are seeing that the maximum killing as a result of cordon and search operations is Kashmiris. So in many ways, the state of India is killing its own people. And also, who get killed? Civilians, they are residents of India. Security forces, no matter how small they are, again residents of India. So we are actually, by this action, enhancing the capabilities. And here again, I agree with John Bhatia, that Pakistan is is fishing in the troubled waters in the valley. And that's why he rightly said, I would like to give more figures from NHA, that from Jan to July last year, there were 260 fire violations. From Jan to July this year, 487. They have doubled. So what you see, and I'm not talking about China factor at all. A former foreign secretary, a former ambassador of India to China has said that the 5th August decision could be one of the many factors which has brought the Chinese into eastern Ladakh. Now coming to the demographics.
Let's talk about this, then I'll come back to the demographics. Let General Bhatia take this one. And Abhinav, welcome. I'm going to come to you in 1 minute also. Good to have you on the show. General Bhatia.
Okay. I agree with the Air Marshal Kak. There's no doubt about it that there have been more Kashmiri militants who will neutralize than those who come across, because they're not able to come from across, so many of them. But at the same time, let me also give you another figure. And there have been 50,000 applicants for armed equipment for 2,500 vacancies in the state of Jammu, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So that is another figure which also shows that there are the youth who are looking at joining the army, the Central Armed Police Forces, the security forces, and the police and the government jobs. So the issues are slightly different. The issues are employment generation. The issues are education, and all these cannot happen without peace and stability. Peace, stability, and economic development go hand in hand. You cannot have economic development. You cannot have education. The first thing that terrorists always target during anything is the schools, and the first thing they have burnt the schools. The first thing that's closed in is schools. The schools don't function. If the schools don't function, what do the children do? The children come to the streets. So that is what I'm trying to say. So all these factors have to be seen as one. If we have peace, if stability is the prerequisite for economic development, for education, for employment generation, and of course we need empathy for the people. That is exceedingly important, and that is something which we need to do. So I will just for the president, I'll just say that, and I think there should be agreement on that you cannot have economic development without these. Who will invest monies out there? Who will invest resources out there? Who will get the skilled labor out there? So these are some issues we'll have to see. So for policy levels have to come down from the public order to the law and order domain, rest of the country, and such conditions they require different. These are challenges, and they require different sort of solutions to that. Yes, people are hurt out there, but possibly some of them don't even understand Article 370. Let me also say that. I'm not saying that we should not have 4G. We should have all the. I want to see Kashmir prosper. I want to see Kashmiris happy. The well-being of Kashmiris. They're very close to me. I really respect them. They're the best people I've come across. I've been there. But the fact is that they're caught in a situation which is not of their own making. Only portion of them, a percentage of them are for whatever we call, this thing. And the new things are covered. The TRF has covered. What is TRF? It is another name for all the terrorist organizations which Pakistan had supported and sponsored and things like that. So there are other issues also involved.
Okay. General Patek, yeah. Arjuman, you heard both the conversation. Would you like to comment on that? Everybody at the end of the day is agreeing on one thing, that we want peace and prosperity in Kashmir. Just the ways of getting that, I think, are different.
Yeah, I think there can't be two, thoughts about it, that everyone wants peace and stability. Everyone wants the children of Jammu and Kashmir, children of India, Pakistan, to live in peace and look forward to a future where there is no scope for wars, there is no scope for violence, where our coming generations thrive in an environment of brotherhood, amity. That's the kind of ideal world that all of us should be looking forward to. Having said that, why are currently Kashmiri youngsters, I would not say a majority of them, I would say certain number of Kashmiri youngsters being driven to taking up to non-peaceful means of, articulating or, expressing their wills. Why is that happening? The fundamental reason is that a vast majority of youngsters feel humiliated. A vast number of youngsters think that their dignity, their respect is being compromised, and that's being violated. And what are we trying to do? We are trying to overlook the dimension of dignity. We're trying to overlook the issue of respect. But what we are saying, that we are going to usher in economic development, we are going to usher in Panchayati Raj system, we are going to empower local bodies, local self-governance bodies, and everything is going to be okay. But is that going to be so? There's a very dangerous political vacuum in Jammu and Kashmir right now. Let's recognize and accept that. And that vacuum cannot be filled by simply empowering Panchayati Raj institutions and having local self-governance at the village level. You need to have a credible political system in place, a political system which is credible in the eyes of the people. Kapilji just now talked about the political mainstream in Jammu and Kashmir, which was taking a line, which was a fine line between, aspirations of the political aspirations of the masses of Jammu and Kashmir, and also the realities and also pragmatic realities of our whole environment of the landscape. But where are they placed today? The common masses tell them, look, you are the people, who were trying to tell us that democracy, that peace, that peaceful means of resolution of Jammu and Kashmir issue was the only way. But now look at this way you guys have been treated. Now, where is the space for democracy? Where is the space for electoral politics? Where is the space for, seeking respect and dignity for the people of Jammu and Kashmir through an electoral system? And they are answerless. They are not able to answer the common masses on this question.
Well, that is one view. Abhinav Pandey, I would like to first introduce you to the panel, and I'm, apologies for the audio business. Abhinav is a counter-terrorism expert. He's an author with extensive field experience in the Valley. He's also the founder and CEO of USANAS, which is a geopolitical and security think tank. Can you, it's been 1 year since the abrogation of 370. So your first impressions on that?
First of all, I would say that the abrogation of Article 370 was an essentially required step because Kashmir was going through a critical stage. The transnational terrorist organizations with their pan-Islamist ideology were taking deep roots in Kashmir, and we were witnessing a complete ideological and a sentimental transformation among the youth of the Kashmir. But having said that, I would like to say that the abrogation of Article 370 was just a beginning. After that, there was a lot to be done. First and foremost, if we are having a policy intervention like the abrogation of Article 370, our aim was to integrate Kashmir with the rest of India in a sentimental and emotional manner. I feel that, well, in the initial phase, the situation was managed very well. We had a very negligible amount of violence. Things were managed very well by the local administration, by the state administration. But later, after 4 or 5 months, we somehow lost track. Kashmiris, the local people, they wanted some good changes in the governance, good changes in, I would say, the interaction and approachability with the state officials. But as of now, Kashmir just looks like a state completely resigned to the whims and fancies of bureaucrats, where there is no perceptible governance change, and nothing as such has happened on the ground. There have been very loud proclamations and loud announcements, but some perceptible change which the people of Kashmir wanted. And let me tell you, there were strong nationalist voices in Kashmir who, out of fear, might not support the application of Article 370, but they were quite happy because the so-called mainstream, which we generally refer to as the credible face in Kashmir, it was actually under their regime, the entire identity of Kashmiri culture and Kashmiri religion was completely violated. It is the so-called special status of that Article 370, under which the Sufi Islam got completely ruined and completely destroyed, and the local politicians were party to that. Okay, I will be very forthright with that. We have had chief ministers in Kashmir who have sheltered terrorists in their homes.
Well, some the BJP was in alliance with also. Later on they accused them. When it suited them, they shook hands with them.
I do blame BJP also. BJP has not been very perceptive and very visionary when it comes to Kashmir. And so they were politicians, they were interlocutors which were sent by Delhi, always spoke sugar-coated things. They never spoke about the menace which Jamaat-e-Islami projects, the menace which the Salafi radicalization in Kashmir was gaining strength. Jamaat-e-Islami, which was propagating that Maududi kind of Islam, and it poisoned the youth completely. But the interlocutors which we sent from Delhi, they hardly spoke about it. There were professors who served as advisors in the government, but very rarely someone spoke the truth. Coming to the present, I must say that it was a beginning, a good beginning, the abrogation of Article 370. But after that, our performance has been abysmal in the state. If you want to deal with the conflict state, you cannot leave it to the whims and fancies of bureaucrats. You need a good political statesman-like approach, where we are missing. On the other side, Pakistan and Turkey especially, now you have new actors. They have entirely changed the approach in dealing with militancy. Your old guard, Hurriyat and all, they have fallen in disfavor. Now you see new tactics. Jamaat-e-Islami was banned by the central government, but the entire second and third round leadership has dispersed into the rural areas. Now you have young guys who are tech savvy but highly Islamized in their mindset. And actions are being coordinated from Turkey, Sadat commandos, which are kind of, I would say, and they have trained jihadis, Nusra and all these people in Syria and Libya. They are becoming more and more active when it comes to Kashmir militancy now. And you have completely different leadership in militancy. And we will see a very different style of militancy in Kashmir, more tech-savvy, much more internationalized, and especially after the withdrawal of Americans from Afghanistan, many new actors will be involved. Even among the Shias, I must say. So recently I came across a webinar where a prominent Shia leader of Kashmir, a very prominent voice, he was interacting with the Chinese ambassador and interact at the language and tone of the interaction displayed. It was a very personal kind of an interaction. On the other side, if you see in Pakistan, in the ISI Kashmir desk, Pakistan has for the first time posted a major general in charge of the things, and he's a Shia. So now this new mission of radicalizing the Shias in Kashmir. So the new forms are coming up.
New forms are coming up. And we're totally out of time. Sorry, Anna, we couldn't give you much time because there was some technical glitch. But, 1 year later, situation on the ground, is it better than it was earlier? I think the jury is still out on that one. Literally, the court is also looking into it. Some of it is to be blamed on the pandemic, but also the decision that has been taken. There are glitches. It is maybe a good decision. It has been welcomed by the rest of the country. People in the valley are still coming to terms with it. But the implementation still leaves a lot to be desired as to achieve the ends that which we all agree is economic prosperity and of the valley and of this entire state. Thank you so much for joining us on this show, and that's it for now. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon. For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.